Hi, so welcome back if you saw the last episode of the top 64 albums of all time of mine. This time we're going to do 60 through 56. So if you didn't see the last one, then you're welcome. If you did, then welcome back. I've got a theory, and I just want to hit with this theory because it's going to bear out in the next few weeks. And my theory is that the albums you listen to when you were a particular age are the ones that you stay with. It's this genre that you like for all time. So you might think, well, what is that age? It's got to be 21. It's got to be when you get married. It's got to be when you first start work, whatever. No, it's 14. The age is 14. And I would say maybe between 14 and 16. The age at which when you hear this music and it stays with you. If you knew that, you'd choose carefully. You'd choose carefully about, what do I want to be? What sort of songs do I want to listen to? Because that stays with you. I think it's subconscious, but there you are. So what you're going to see is a couple of albums today from 1970, and that's when I was 14. This is sort of stuff that stayed in my consciousness and informed, if you like, my musical taste throughout. So 70, 71, 72, big era for me, and I'll go with the people who say the 70s were the most important decade for music, and I would say that's by far the most important decade for music, certainly that I've lived through, and I can't think of one that's going to come up anytime soon. So there you go. So first album, is from 1970, and it's one of the first albums I ever bought with my own money, and it's this devil here. It's called Cosmos Factory, and it's by a band called, let me just get the glare off that, by a band called Creedence Clearwater Revival. You may have heard of them, you may not. Creedence Clearwater Revival back in the 1969-70 era were prolific, and they were probably as big as the Beatles in America. Really famous band. Prolific in that in the previous year to this, Cosmos Factory released in 1970, they released three platinum albums in 1 year. So check those out if you fancy a bit of Creedence. This one, as I say, connected to because it's the first album I bought. And it's just that I'd heard 2 or 3 singles once on holiday, and they're all on this album. So you've got things like Up Around the Bend, Travelling Band, Who'll Stop the Rain, and then throwing in classics, reworks of classics like Heard It Through the Grapevine, that sort of thing. 4-piece band, dominated by John Fogerty, who's the lead singer on most of the tracks. Wrote this stuff as well. And it was a bit acrimonious later on in Creedence's life, where the rest of the band said, hey, when do we get our sort of 10 minutes in the sun? And he said, well, have a go if you want. They released an album, I think it was Mardi Gras, in which all the other band members got their time at writing songs, and it was pretty poor. So the evidence there is that John Fogerty was the driving force behind the band. Wrote some such catchy, classic songs, really simple, 3 or 4 chords really making up those things, and sang about everyday life, which is always a classic for me. So Creedence, on the front, this guy here has a sign in front of him, and it says lean, clean and bluesy, and I guess, not knowing that then but knowing it now, that's my sort of sound. I like it, not grungy, not crazy feedback and stuff, but so you can hear the words, you can hear the lyrics, you can make out the music and that sort of thing. I also liked the bike when I was 14. I've never seen an album before or since with a racing bike on the cover. It's an interesting thing I read the other day that you never hear the phrase, oh wow, yeah, they sound like Creedence, because nobody quite sounds like Creedence Clearwater Revival. It's an interesting thing. Right to this day, I've never heard anybody that sounds quite like them. They got this, what they call chuglin sound. It's like a train running, sort of tick 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 thing goes throughout quite a lot of their songs, and I'm drawn toward that stuff. So a lot of my favourite songs, not just by these guys, but feature that sort of beat. I can think of Lay Down Sally by Eric Clapton. That is one of my favourites simply because it has that beat. I'm also drawn to, and this has nothing to do with Creedence, but you might see it later on in some of my choices, people who drawl. People who don't quite pronounce their words properly. It's probably because I don't pronounce my words that clearly either. So people like the guy out of Hootie and the Blowfish, Dylan to an extent, Brian Ferry. People who sort of just move on. Songs sung by pirates would have been a good choice for me. So that's 1970 album, Cosmos Factory. I was doing standout tracks before, and this is no different, so I'll choose the first track off this. It's about 7 minutes long. Epitomises Creedence at their best. It's called Ramble Tamble. It's just a real chudling, beaty sort of opener, which I particularly like. Okay, so that's Cosmos Factory, 1970. Second choice, and I didn't have this at the time, I do have it now, and it's a fantastic album. It's called Cactus, is their first album by a band called Cactus. And I've only got this because sort of later in life I've been turned on to people like Allman Brothers, people like Peter Green, sort of great blues bands. Peter Green just died, of course, last week. Fantastic guitar players and informed by the sort of blues revival of the 60s. This band's got this in spades. So if you like your Allman Brothers, you like your Peter Green, you like this band as well. Formed by two guys called Carmine and Apice, or Apice, I don't know how you say Carmine Apice, he's the drummer, and Tim Bogert, who's the bass player. And they were formerly of Vanilla Fudge in the 60s. Nothing spectacular there, but when they got together with a guy called Rusty Day, I like that name, Rusty Day, a bit country backwoodsman type thing, and a guy called Jim McCarty, and there's also a guy called Jim McCarty in the Yardbirds. This is not him. So Jim McCarty on lead guitar, and those two, really solid rhythm section, really hits it for me. So Cactus, well dug out piece of vinyl. They got 2 or 3 after this, which I think they did a live album, was very good, and then it started to go down Cactus version 2, but still good stuff if you like that sort of thing. So yeah, thoroughly recommended. So where we're going to go next is 2015, and this guy has been around, a solo performer since about 2001. First album's 2001. He was formerly of he was in a band called the Long Pigs, and he was also guested on guitar for Pulp with Jarvis Cocker. And you hear that connection and you think, here we go, Sheffield again. You're absolutely right. Second of the 4 bands that are from Sheffield in my list. This guy's called Richard Hawley, and Richard Hawley, I didn't know much about him. I got into it when he was doing Ladies Bridge and Cole's Corner, 2 of his albums, and about 4th and 5th albums. I really got into that because Cole's Corner, Cole's is John Lewis in Sheffield, so Cole Brothers is the old name for the John Lewis store in Sheffield where I grew up. And Cole's Corner is often a place where when you say, where we're going to meet in town, you'll meet in Cole's Corner, which is right on the edge of the big store, right in one of the city squares. He named his 4th, I think, album Cole's Corner. He also had another one called Low Edges previously, which is an area of Sheffield. And he also had a place called an album called Ladies Bridge. Now, Ladies Bridge is where I've had my sort of main IT job when I was working for a company called Whitbread. Number of people I still remember to this day from that IT thing. Howard Booth actually asked me to name drop him in this early on, so I got that out of the way. Great times. A place called Ladies Bridge is where the brewery was situated, a place called Mill Sands, Ladies Bridge. And he's obviously got a real, I know he's got a real affection for Sheffield because I've seen him many times in concert and he talks about it. Born in a place called Pittsmore. I believe he lived in Low Edges. I might get that wrong. But this guy's difficult to pin down. He's true to his roots in that he's sort of working class northerner, and his father was a musician of some merit as well. So he got his sort of skills and learned his licks off his dad. A lot of 50s references here, a lot of Roy Orbison, a lot of that sort of stuff. Gretsch guitar playing and all that twangy guitar. And then, of course, he had a diversion into not only rock and roll type stuff, but drugs in the 90s, and emerged as a solo performer. So if you've not checked out Richard Hawley, I know there's a couple of friends of mine who can't stand him, see him as just a singer-songwriter, balladeer. If you give his albums a check out, you'll know there's far much more than that. So he can really rock out, he can sing ballads, he can sing crooners almost, rockabilly, all sorts of stuff going on there. So Hollow Meadows is the name of this album. By the way, another place in Sheffield, just north of Sheffield, I guess, a place called Hollow Meadows. Great album, really nice sound on it as well. And let's think, I didn't give a standout track for Cactus either. But anyway, let's move on. Standout track for this is called Tuesday PM. Really nice song. Have a go at that on Spotify or whatever, and you'll probably get the feel of how gentle and soft and beautiful Richard Hawley's voice can be. Okay. So, not dissimilar now. I'm going to go back to 2001, one of the, in fact, second album that this band released. They're an American band from Kentucky, and they've had about 8 or 9 albums out now. This is the first one I got, and it's called, let's get it in there, it's called At Dawn, by a band called My Morning Jacket. I saw this band in Amsterdam at the Paradiso Club. Absolutely fantastic. If you ever get a chance to go to Amsterdam, there's a band on that you like. Paradiso's an old church. And on this day, it had this, well, partly magical because everybody's smoking dope inside it, but partly magical because it used to be a church and has this ethereal sort of atmosphere. Perfect for these boys, My Morning Jacket. Again, 4-piece, maybe 5-piece band. Standard lineup. Jim James is a leader of it, I guess. He's a rhythm guitarist and singer, and his musical ability goes way beyond playing this ethereal, spooky rock music. It's almost alt country. It's melodic, and the stuff on here is quite symptomatic, I guess, of the stuff that My Morning Jacket have done. And they've moved on. I read a thing the other day who was saying, I can't believe that's me singing on that album. That's what I used to be like. His singing's got a lot sharper and a bit harder, and the band's got a bit rockier. But I would say this one, my favourite, because I guess I heard it first. And my standout track is a bit weird. It's called If It Smashes Down. There's a line in there that says you're on a really rickety fairground ride, and there's this thought of, but what if it smashes down? What if it comes to pieces? What if everything about you falls apart? And I like that sort of in my life. I've always thought, but what if this and what if that? Not in a fearful sort of way, but just in a creative way. So I like the idea of it smashes down. It's really ethereal. I think they taped it in some sort of grain silo or somewhere in the middle of America. So it's really spooky feel. A great album to put on when you've had a couple of glasses of wine and it's turn down the lights and have a piece of this. So My Morning Jacket, At Dawn. One more to go. We're going to go for that what I call post-punk era, 1982. Interesting era for me because I, as I said before, didn't really care for punk a great deal. It was great to get up and thrash about in a club, but I really wanted the words and the songs and the sound and the lyrics especially. So this album, fifth choice, number 56 here, is by a band called XTC. Now XTC, back in the day, started off as sort of plip-plop sort of post-punky band, catchy tunes, but didn't really get anywhere. But a number of things like Sergeant Rock is going to help me, Making Plans for Nigel, of course, Towers of London, that sort of thing. You probably remember those, and they did pretty well in the charts. But it's interesting that the guy, the main guy in this band, XTC, is called Andy Partridge, and Andy Partridge and the rest of the band come from Swindon, so there's something of very English about them, and they were getting to the stage where they were getting big, and they went to America and sort of had to quit because Andy Partridge, he got sort of half between stage fright and just, well, not depression, but he everything overwhelmed him. So he sort of broke up the band, went on sort of painkillers and one thing another, and drugs and stuff, and said, got to get off this, but I can't perform anymore. There's a change in the band from that point. Instead of doing pop and stuff that the record labels want them to do, they started doing what he calls sort of more ambient English feel to it. So from this point on, the band, by the way, the album's called English Settlement. You start getting really thoughtful, well thought through, great lyrics, more softer musical stuff rather than the sort of ping pong post punk sort of era. There's another album after this, which I don't have, which I'd love to get, called Skylarking, which has been reviewed a number of times, the best thing they ever did. So XTC, English Settlement, it's actually a double album, so you get a lot of stuff on here. And my standout track would probably be Senses Working Overtime, which is just they stopped sort of making singles, but that was one of the singles that they had on this album. So, quick run through. We've had Cosmo's Factory from 1970, Cactus by Cactus. We've got Hollow Meadows by Richard Hawley, At Dawn by My Morning Jacket, and at number 56, English Settlement by XTC. That's all for this time. I'll see you in 5 days' time. We'll start back with number 55. Hope you enjoyed it. That's all for now. See you soon.